So my husband and I, we started our wildlife journey somewhere in the late 90s, and we realized that we are quite. My husband was always passionate about wildlife, but he realized that he had a even crazier wife, who really loved animals, and so we started our journey to various wildlife habitats. First, as any other tourist going to a wildlife sanctuary to see a tiger or so. So, my first tiger sanctuary was Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve. And I saw the tiger. And after that, I think there was no going back. I wanted to go back every year, but we were too young and we couldn't take so many holidays. So, our annual breaks would be to tiger sanctuaries. So, after a point, I also started liking birds, and I realized that they fascinate me. And there are almost 1,300 plus species of birds that are seen in our Indian subcontinent. I'm very happy to say that we have done over, I have seen over 1,000 species of birds. So we have traveled right from Arunachal Pradesh to the east to Jaisalmer on the left to Ladakh or Greater Nicobar down south. But what this taught me after a period of time was that how many more tigers, how many more birds do I see? I think it's time to give back to Mother Nature for all that she's taught us, and she's embraced us with open arms. I felt it was time to give back. During our travels, my husband and I would do in our limited way, we would try to help the locals or the forest guards. But we realized that if we wanted to scale up and actually make an impact, we would have to have an NGO where we could get funds from other people and then make the desirable impact. So in 2017, we started our NGO. My husband and I founded it, and we are a very small team of just 2 employees, but we have a legion of volunteers and supporters who not only help raise funds, help us during the installation, liaise with the forest department and the solar vendor. Everything is done largely because of the tremendous support we have had. So I'm really grateful to that. So over a period of time, I think initially one of the reasons why we have this support also is because I see that people feel when professionals come into any fora, it doesn't matter which one, they bring with them a lot of integrity and professionalism, which they don't see in other fields. So when I started my campaigns for Ustad in 2014, that was my foray into wildlife activism. Till then, I didn't know about it. Means I would write, but not really take it to the next level where I would go to Delhi every now and then to meet either politicians, bureaucrats, anybody to just see that this tiger, which I believe was wrongfully sent to the zoo, should at least be kept in an enclosure within the forest. Because once it goes to the zoo, it loses all chances of ever being rewilded. Not that we have a great success rate in rewilding, but still there is hope. So that is when I started with Ustad. And I realized with Ustad's campaign that where I lacked was not having the maybe courage to take up a legal battle. But with Avni's case, in Tigress Avni's campaign, and which led to the PILs in the courts, I realized that I do have the courage, and it is just being determined to see that it's not easy fighting legal battles in India, especially PILs, which are often dismissed as saying that it's for publicity. So the common man has very little recourse. Obviously, when we go for a PIL to the judiciary, it is after losing all hope from the, let's say, politicians and the bureaucracy. Then we attempt to go to the courts. But all this activism helped me gain the confidence that I had built up enough goodwill with forest officials and my supporters to know that if we take up an assignment, it will have its obvious conclusion and it will have an impact. We don't leave anything halfway. So with that in mind, we also realize that most wildlife NGOs in the country often focus on the humans around the forest. That's because of George Schaler's theories, which he formed in Africa and in Kana in MP, that if you keep the locals around the forest happy, or you look after them, you create awareness, then the forest department can do their job, because the antagonism they face from the locals around the forest is minimized. With this belief, most wildlife NGOs focus a lot on uplifting the human population around the forest. For me, I believe that our resources are very limited. Very few people actually contribute or work in the sphere of wildlife conservation. If we dilute even that amount, that or whatever resources that come into wildlife NGOs, then we are doing a disservice to the actual beneficiary of our cause, that is the wildlife. Which is why, because I myself am a very direct person, I have a very direct approach in life, I felt that our vision should also be the same. We have to have direct benefits going to wildlife. So our mission is to work at the grassroots level. Most wildlife NGOs also work at the grassroots level, but they work with the stakeholders of, let's say, wildlife conservation. Whereas we work within the forest primarily, and we help not only the wildlife, but also the forest staff and the laborers from these remote villages working in these remote camps. We provide them with water. So, so as our environmental policy obviously will be then based on sustainable practices, which are eco-friendly, which don't leave, no, which are minimal human imprint as much as possible. Obviously, the focus is on wildlife conservation, and we want direct benefit going there. We are very particular about waste management in and around our installations. We do not leave anything behind which can be construed as not biodegradable in the forest. Even if it is biodegradable, whatever litter we generate, we always take it out of the forest. Even about waste management, what we also do is, if there is any defunct or spoiled installation which is there previously, we as much as possible try to refurbish the same one rather than invest our limited resources into making a new installation. Habitat restoration. Now, this is something so crucial, which I myself didn't know when I was just providing water. But what we have managed to do with just providing water, basic drinking water inside the forest, is that we are having a very sustainable ecosystem that is being generated by Mother Nature without us ever planting even one sapling. So there is no afforestation schemes going on. We allow the natural biodiversity, which is getting lost. Soil erosion is happening. What obviously our grassland management is not there because there's no water. The woodland degradation is happening. All this is being taken care of simply because we are providing water. Of course, we are a very new NGO and there's lots to learn. So we are constantly learning and there is always scope for improvement. Now, the problem statement might be just water scarcity in the forest. It's like the elephant in the room. Nobody really even talks about the crisis that we are facing inside the forest. Many parts of our forest, which were earlier rich in water source on the ground, is now getting minimized and the water sources is getting depleted. This is largely because of, I believe, largely because the aquifers inside the forest are drying up. It's drying up because there is over extraction of water around the forest by us humans for our human needs, whether it is agriculture, human settlements, infrastructure projects. Those are responsible for, I believe, the drying up of the water sources in the forest. If traditionally many parts of our forest didn't have always water in summer months, for example, the animals would know if in summer there's no water in, say, Wayanad or Tolpatti in Kerala, they would come down to Nagarhole in Kabini. They had migratory corridors within the forest to come into these sanctuaries. Unfortunately, with the increasing human population and the development, agriculture, need for food revolution to feed our 1.2 billion population, we are encroaching more and more into the forest land, and the migratory corridors are also getting destroyed. This is what is actually causing islanding of the wildlife population. This is a huge crisis again, which it's probably looming in front of us, and we are not able to do much about it because it's a political, social cause for it. But this islanding will cause the gene pool diversity to minimize. It will also cause many more mutative changes. So in the future, we may have en masse destruction or elimination of a species simply because of this islanding. The same islanding and the same reason why we are talking about providing water is the cause for the myth of the man-eaters. Now, how do I connect the two? India, in the turn of the century, that is the 1900s, we had over 1 lakh tigers in the country. Of course, tigers were always hunted since Mughal times, so it's not a new thing. But when the Britishers came to India, they coined the term man-eater. Until then, there is no reference to this term called man-eater anywhere in our history books. So we had the king of Rewa, for example, who had the tradition of killing 109 tigers before he went for a war. And hunting was like a Nawabi shock, a very princely thing to do for their entertainment, for their own personal entertainment, and also for their guests. So many of the present day national parks and all were probably mostly the rich hunting grounds, protected hunting grounds of the Nawabs or the princes or the kings or the rulers in India. That actually meant that only the king could hunt. You and I, commoners, could never go and hunt. But when the Britishers came, they wanted to live the good life of the Maharajas. So they created a Forest Act somewhere in the late 1800s. And then they said, we will give hunting permits. So they actually started monetizing the hunting. They didn't want to just give it to anybody. So they had hunting seasons. And even then, before the Britishers gave these hunting licenses, there were people, obviously, it's like how we go on safari and we don't get the permit. There were agents. Some of them, if I name as agents, will seem scandalous, but many of the reputed so-called conservationists, hunters turned conservationists, were actually agents. They would write books, the hunting experts, in very great detail and very, with a nice human touch, great sympathy and empathy for the locals and the wildlife. So they were beautiful narrators, but they were hunters and they were hunting permit facilitators. Those days, there was no Facebook or social media or Insta Reels where they could make something to, entice their customers. Their clients were sought abroad, overseas, and they had to write books. So the English medium books were actually written by these hunters come facilitators. In fact, some of the facilitators' books are even today followed to the T by forest departments. So if this hunter said that there was this man-eater of Champaran who had a bullet wound in her and she had a fractured canine, then that is the reason why she killed so many people. Please remember, during those days, these hunters who wrote about man-eaters of Rudraprayag, or any of the hunters who wrote about the so-called man-eaters, they didn't have the luxury or the insight to stripe matching of tigers or spot matching of leopards. Without that, they just said the same tiger killed 100 people, the same tiger killed 50 women, and that it would go and seek their prey. Now, you have to understand a very basic thing. So-called man-eaters are just carnivores. They are just predators who thrive on stealth and they survive on meat. They are not discerning that today, it is Saturday, so let me have black bull, let me have blue bull, let me have sambar today, let me have deer. They don't have a choice. They will eat any meat that is there, even if it is human. Does that mean that they will go out and seek human? No, they would always prefer to eat their own prey, their own herbivore prey. So when there is no water in the forest, the grassland management is not there. Where does the herbivore go? The herbivore goes outside the forest in search of water and the crops. And that's when crop depredation takes place and the farmer loses the crop, and then in anger sort of poisons either the water body or electrocutes the animal. Or most of our locals are consumers of wild meat. For them it is a daily matter. It is not like an one-off thing that they will have bush meat. For them it's part of their cuisine. So they, when they electrify their fence illegally, obviously they are actually targeting to kill the meat, the animals which they consume, whether it is wild boar or the deer. Unfortunately, the tiger, if it gets caught coming behind the herbivore, then the conflict starts, because then the tiger and the human being both are at a loss. Fatalities are known to occur on both sides and both are undesirable. And that is why we like to provide water inside the forest. When we provide water inside the forest, it is not just to slake their thirst. They also get their food source, the herbivores and the carnivores. Now, finding water.
Excuse me, Sarita. Yeah, now it is moving, I think. There is, because there was a concern that your slides are not moving. I think you had stopped at one.
I stopped. I'd stopped. Yeah. Okay. So this is what happens. So the challenge was to provide water for the animals inside the forest. We wanted them to feel secure and not go out in search of water or food. So we also had to decide how to do it in an eco-friendly way. In a tropical country like India, solar energy is abundant. It is there maximum when it is summer and when the crisis, water crisis is on. And for animals during summer, it's a do or die situation. They really struggle to find water. So the solar energy that we use solar panels that generates energy from, let's say, 9 or 10 in the morning till 4, 5 in the evening. Through the day, the panels absorb the energy. That energy is converted to the pump set, which is submerged in the borewells. Wherever possible, the borewells are done obviously by the department. Wherever possible, we use a perennial surface, perennial water body. The perennial water body, if it is there even in summer, that is our best option. Unfortunately, that is not the case. More often than not, we have to rely on borewells. So the solar pump set is immersed or submerged in the water body, and then the water is drawn up onto the ground to provide drinking water for animals in water bodies. Now the water bodies can be either we replenish the natural water bodies, or we also ask the forest department to make these cement man-made saucers or tanks, and then the animal drinks water from that. Now here again the challenge was, if the forest department earlier, when they would provide water, they would do it through water tankers, but they would not reach all the surfaces. And earlier the forest department, even if they did solar installations, they would just supply water to one water body maybe, and maybe to the anti-poaching camps. But as a woman, I multitask, like all of you understand. You have to provide water to as many water bodies the solar pump and the panels can generate and provide water. This is for two reasons. One, giving multiple water bodies means we are developing the microhabitat and the macrohabitat in multiple areas around the forest. And also, animals are very territorial. They don't like to share their resources, especially a very precious resource like water. So there would be conflict between the animals if we gave a lot of water in just one area. So I like to give underground. So we donate the underground pipelines and we provide water to as many water bodies as we can. So in places like Rajasthan, we have given 8 to 9 water bodies with just one solar pump and one solar installation. In fact, just before Diwali, 2 days before Diwali, we have done an installation in Panna Tiger Reserve, where we have taken underground pipelines for almost 4 kilometers. Because there was this chowki and a water body there, 4 kilometers away from the chowki where we took the water. There was no water despite their repeated attempts at doing the bore wells. So we actually laid pipelines for almost 4 kilometers. And we have done this even in Dikala in Corbett Tiger Reserve, where from the campus we have supplied water for almost 3.5 kilometers away. saved the national exchequer the cost of making a new borewell 3.5 kilometers. And of course, the tanker wouldn't have to go that far to provide water there. Now, we did this in Dikala despite having the natural Ram Ganga flowing there. So many of my friends, including wildlife lovers, don't know why we are providing water there. Though the reservoir and the river is close by, like I mentioned earlier, the animals are very insecure if they come to an open area also. The tiger, the predator is lurking there. So even an elephant herd which has calves will not want to come to the river as much as possible. So you'll see a little later how elephants prefer our natural our water bodies over the perennial river right next door. So this is how we have amplified a very small limited resource that we had. So the solar installations we provide obviously come with a lot of benefits. They are non-polluting, they are trouble-free, very low maintenance. Even the forest laborers who are not very literate, even they can handle the operations. And we have also trained a few staff to say if something is wrong, then they can report back to us and we try and provide them the necessary solutions. Like I said earlier, the wildlife, of course, get access to drinking water, but it also improves the biodiversity. As you can see, there will always be some greenery around the water body that we have provided water. Very ambitiously, this financial year, we said we will do 50 installations. Each of our installations costs around 2 to 6 lakhs on an average. Still, we said this year, let's try and do 50 installations. I thought it was a bit ambitious, but as of today, we have already done 42 installations, and I'm sure we will complete the 50 by the financial year ending. So the next year, we plan to do another 70. One of the ways, all NGOs, will struggle with fundraising. One of the ways we did some fundraising early years was we had a wildlife photography exhibition. One of them was held in Jahangir Art Gallery, the prestigious art gallery in Bombay, where Miss Ravina very graciously agreed to be the chief guest. We raised, everybody told me we will not make money from wildlife photographs, but we raised around 12 or 13 lakhs from that exhibition, where we printed this image of the tiger and the lion and the cub. We had 10 reprints of that image, and such prints we managed to raise almost 12 or 13 lakhs. So over the years, this figure of 145 is erroneous. As of now, I have to change it. We have done 160 installations with 400 water bodies. We have worked in 19 different reserves in 7 states: Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, and Karnataka. And 10 of them are tiger reserves. We have obviously helped much more than 12 lakhs, because how do you count the number of bees which came to drink water from a small water body, or the number of insects which drank, the amphibians, the larger mammals and elephants, maybe still we can calculate easily, but the many other species which rely on water, need water for their basic survival, that cannot be tabulated, obviously. This year also, we won our very first award. That's my mother. She's my hero. She's worked in BRC. She's the one who inspires me to do for wildlife. She's the one who tells me that even if not a single wild animal will come and thank you, the sighs they give out after slaking their thirst, the universe will give back to you whatever you want. That is her belief. So that this year we won the Green NGO of the Award from IAA's Olive Crown Award. This year I also won in August the Times Now Amazing Indian Award. Though the award was given to me, I believe it was my NGO which deserved the award, because we won it under the sustainability and environment category. This is definitely for my NGO. One of the things we have noticed with our cause is that we are not able to provide the impact or the data that is needed. Here, what we realized is that because we can't, like I told you, we can't calculate how many bees came to drink, how many wasps came, how many birds came to drink. How do we show this, the data? Human beings, it's very easy. I can say I donated 100 shawls to a human, a population, a forested village, or we donated water filters for the forest guards. We can tabulate that number. But the forest department does provide us with images of videos and camera trap images. And we ourselves make our visits, and we have observed that there is much more greenery around the forest. There is water in the forest. What the forest department tells us is that the internecine, or the rivalry between animals, is much less. The animals are not migrating out, so the crop depredation, their road accidents, because when they cross the road highways which cross our forests, unfortunately, those kind of accident deaths are also minimized. So we know that there is an impact. But one of the ways I have found to sort of show the impact is by, hello, may I continue?
Yes, please.
So one of the ways I realized we could show some figures which can be tabulated and calculated is we are the first NGO to do solar installations in Panna. Panna Tiger Reserve in Madhya Pradesh. It is it was infamous because it lost all its tigers to poaching a few decades ago. But now they are reviving their tiger population. I think they have 36 plus tigers now in Panna. So what we decided is, we said out of the 24 that we have done now, let's take 10 installations. So if we took 10 installations, they were providing water in the saucers through their water tankers, which means if they didn't use those tankers, now that the solar pump set installations are there, they would save almost 2.5 lakhs of diesel which the water tankers use. And also in just 100 days, okay, mind you, in just 100 days. And the carbon dioxide emission coming from the diesel water tankers and generators, which would be minimized, would be to the tune of 52,000 pounds. That is the equivalent of having suddenly transplanted 1,126 fully grown mature trees, which would do the carbon sequestration and provide us with the much needed oxygen. So back then what we did is we said, okay, in that case, if 10 installations in Panna is doing this, our remaining 145 installations is saving the national exchequer almost 36.25 lakhs of diesel, and we are saving 754,000 pounds of carbon emission. And also this is equivalent to 16,327 fully mature trees, giving us oxygen around the year. That I felt was how we could show the impact of just providing water inside the forest. I'm trying to go to the next slide. I'll just try. Yeah. So one of the insights we have gained over the last 5-6 years of doing the installations is that our installations are very vulnerable. It's in the forest where it can be easily attacked by wild animals or even vandalized by locals. So for elephant-rich forests, it's very risky because elephants, they tend to damage the installation, the tanks, everything they pull out the pipes, yank it out, and they damage the installation in search of water. So what we have done is we have laid the underground pipelines in trenches which are almost 6 feet under, so that the animal doesn't pull it out. We also raise the structure, the solar panel structure, sometimes as 10 feet high or even more occasionally. We place the installations on existing rooftops wherever we get a chowki or a camp. We also try and ask the forest department to make EPTs. They're called elephant protection trenches. So the installation is in middle like an island, and around it a square of a trench is made. This is all done so that we protect the trenches, the installation from animals. Now we'll be going to Dudhwa Tiger Reserve maybe in December or January. There, the flooding is an issue. So in the monsoon, our installation, if we keep it really along the ground, it can get damaged. So we are going to raise it really high above, make structures to keep it well above the elephants also, which are there in, and rhinos, which are there in Dudhwa. This is something which we have learned over the years. So obviously we have lost a few installations and learned in the process. There is, though it's low maintenance, we do provide yearly maintenance service. We do it. We don't just do the installations and run away. We hold ourselves accountable to ensure that the water is provided at least for bare minimum 5 years. But I can say this, touch wood, that many of our installations, which are over 6-7 years, we've not had to replace them yet. They are functioning, but we are open to changing them as and when the need arises. We have a wonderful team of solar vendors who provide us with these installations. We couldn't have done these installations without having a sound, team giving us the support, technical support. We also ensure that the installations are, the maintenance is done by local electrician, plumber, just so that minor changes can, or issues can be sorted out. Otherwise, of course, we send our technician and the whole issue is sorted out. What we have also realized over the years is that we have done the installations in some very remote areas which are just not accessible to the tankers. If we had not provided the solar installations, the wild animals in those areas or the anti-poaching staff in those remote areas would never have got access to drinking water. In fact, for them, they have to go miles to get drinking water to their chowkis, which means they are not doing their job, their primary job. Their primary job is patrolling. By actually removing the drudgery out of just a basic drinking water facility that we are providing, we are ensuring that their morale is boosted. They are more focused on their primary job. It also, of course, saves them time and they are able to do those work, their primary duties more efficiently. The fact that we are protecting the indigenous flora and fauna and allowing the natural biodiversity to progress naturally in their own environment without any artificial intervention is hugely beneficial, because we feel whatever biodiversity is lost is very difficult for us human beings to replenish. And of course, because we are continuously providing water, we are also ensuring that the animals themselves are getting water in their habitats, and the conflict is minimized. By replacing, like I mentioned, the water tankers, which are carbon emission producing ones, we are actually helping in mitigating the climate change effects. All this, again, just because we are providing water. I like you to enjoy this video. So maybe Suparna ma'am, would you be able to play it in case the volume is low?
Yeah, I'll try.
So you can see here, it's an elephant herd, and there are cubs, there are calves also inside this is a man-made structure. And this water body is one of the water bodies which we are supplying water. There is a perennial stream nearby, but you can see this herd, they prefer our water body in this forest rather than go to the open field, the open riverine habitat. This is hugely satisfying. This video was sent to me by a forest guard in that area. And in this installation in Corbett Tiger Reserve, we have provided water to 4 different anti-poaching camps and to 4 different water bodies with just 1 solar pump. I'd like you to also see this video, the one I'm going to just play. This is the water body in Fato, in Corbett Tiger Reserve. It's a completely dry forest. There is not a single perennial water body inside the forest. All the water bodies that you see in this forest have been created by the forest department, and they were filling it with water tankers. But because Trishula and her cub is not here, she's Trishula the tigress because she's got the trident mark on her face. She loves this water body. And when I saw her, this is my video from an iPhone. It's not a great video because it was quite far. But when I see her enjoying the water, and as you know, tigresses love water. They sort of, capture one or two water bodies because they don't want to leave their young cubs too far from a water body, and also to ensure that they come back after hunting quickly to the water body. And carnivores need a lot of water because their diet doesn't have adequate water. So when we provide water like this, and we can see how we are helping India's efforts at tiger conservation, I feel that is a reward in itself. And I'm truly grateful to all the forest officials, the forest staff, and also our supporters who have believed in us and made us realize that we can do what we have set out to achieve. Thank you so much. This is again an image taken by my husband. He's a wildlife photographer too. We are both dentists, of course. This is a leopardess and her female cub. They had come to Kana, this water body, Shingarpur, and it was early morning. The light was not too good, but they looked straight at us. We were the only gypsy there, and they never took their eyes off when they were drinking water. This has left a lasting image, in my mind. So thank you so much for this opportunity to make my presentation. Jai Hind.